Bruce Lee would not begin by watching the highlights. He would ignore the belts, the numbers, the undefeated record flashing on screens like trophies begging for worship. Instead, he would sit in silence. He would watch the spaces between Floyd Mayweather's movements, the pauses, the breaths, the decisions that happen before the punch is ever thrown. Bruce Lee believed that a fighter is revealed not by what he does, but by what he refuses to face. In Floyd, Bruce would see something extraordinary, a man who turned defense into dominance, who transformed avoidance into an art form, who mastered distance so completely that chaos never touched him. Bruce would admire this. Discipline is truth. Control is intelligence. Precision is honesty. But admiration was never where Bruce Lee stopped. He would notice that Floyd's confidence does not expand outward, it circles inward. Floyd does not flow into uncertainty. He eliminates it. Bruce Lee often said that fixed patterns are a form of death. And if Bruce were watching closely, not as a fan, not as a critic, but as a philosopher of movement, he might quietly ask, what happens when a man becomes so perfect at one answer that he no longer hears the question? Floyd's prepotentia, the visible arrogance, the sharp tongue, the public certainty, would not offend Bruce Lee. Bruce was not disturbed by ego. He was disturbed by rigidity. To Bruce, arrogance is not about confidence. It is about resistance to transformation. He would see that Floyd's style is built on control of the environment. The ring becomes predictable. The opponent becomes manageable. Risk is minimized. Bruce Lee believed the opposite path leads to truth. He believed that real mastery demands exposure. You must put yourself in a position to be hit, not physically, but philosophically, because evolution does not happen in comfort. Bruce might observe that Floyd's brilliance lies in solving the same problem again and again better than anyone who ever lived. But he would also wonder, what if the problem changes? What if the ring disappears? What if the distance collapses? What if the rules dissolve? Bruce Lee would not accuse Floyd of weakness. He would recognize something far more dangerous: completion, a system so refined that it no longer seeks expansion. And Bruce Lee never trusted systems that claim to be finished. As the first bell rings on the footage Bruce imagines in his mind, he would lean forward, not to judge, but to listen. Because in Floyd Mayweather, Bruce Lee would not see a man who lacked skill. He would see a man standing at the edge of growth, deciding whether dominance is the end of the journey or the beginning of stagnation. And that question, more than any punch, is where the real fight begins. There would be no provocation, no challenge, no need to prove anything. Bruce Lee would not enter a room with Floyd Mayweather seeking to defeat him. He would enter seeking to understand him. And that, perhaps, would be the one thing Floyd would not expect. Bruce Lee believed that the true study of combat began before the first strike. It began in emotional posture, in a man's relationship with his own ego, in the way he depends on structure to feel powerful. If Bruce Lee were to observe Floyd Mayweather, his career, his demeanor, his voice, the way he dismantled opponents, the first thing he would notice would not be the undefeated record. It would be control. Floyd Mayweather is a master of control. Control of distance. Control of timing. Control of rhythm. Control of narrative. Inside the ring, governed by strict rules, he built one of the most efficient fighting systems in modern history. Bruce Lee would respect that. Bruce never dismissed effectiveness. He never confused humility with weakness. If something worked, it deserved study. Bruce would see in Floyd a man who eliminated waste. A fighter who did not trade punches for pride, who did not expose himself to satisfy spectators, who won without needing to look heroic. At that point, Bruce might smile, because that philosophy closely resembled Jeet Kune Do. Absorb what is useful. Reject what is useless. Floyd absorbed what was useful from boxing and discarded everything that did not serve victory. He did not fight to entertain. He fought to avoid losing. That is a rare form of intelligence. But Bruce would continue watching. He would listen when Floyd spoke. The posture of superiority, the constant reinforcement of dominance, the pleasure taken in diminishing others, the insistence on appearing untouchable. Bruce would not label this as simple arrogance. He would recognize it as emotional rigidity. Bruce believed ego was not merely vanity. Ego was dependency. Dependency on applause. Dependency on dominance. Dependency on always standing above. And any dependency, in Bruce's view, was a hidden weakness. He often said that the truly strong man does not harden his identity. If Bruce studied Floyd deeply, he might think, this man controls the ring completely, but he needs the ring in order to feel in control. Floyd is invincible within a closed system. Defined rounds, timed intervals, specific gloves, a referee present, boundaries clearly marked. Bruce Lee was never opposed to rules, but he never mistook rules for truth. For Bruce, the question was never, who wins the fight? The question was always, what remains when the structure disappears? This is where Bruce's reflection would deepen. Bruce believed martial arts should not create specialists in comfort. They should create individuals capable of adapting to chaos. Chaos does not respect records. Bruce might ask whether Floyd, outside the spotlight, outside the narrative, outside absolute control, would remain the same man. Not in terms of fighting, but in terms of inner freedom. Because Bruce viewed combat as a mirror of life. And life has no rounds, no referees, no guarantees of clean victories. Bruce believed that the more a man clings to an image of invincibility, the more fragile he becomes inside. Not because he will lose a fight, but because he cannot lose control. And Bruce saw excessive control as fear disguised as mastery. Fear of mistakes, fear of vulnerability, fear of being touched, not physically but psychologically. Bruce would respect Floyd as a technician, but he would question Floyd as a symbol. He might say something like, "You have defeated every man you've faced, yet you are still fighting the idea of loss." Bruce Lee never believed the purpose of combat was to defeat another person. He believed the purpose was honest self-expression. And here lies the greatest contrast. Floyd fights to avoid exposure. Bruce trained to eliminate concealment. Floyd built an impenetrable fortress. Bruce sought to become water. Water does not need to prove strength. It simply continues to flow, regardless of form. Bruce might look at Floyd and see a brilliant, disciplined, extraordinary individual, but one confined by an identity he had perfected. And Bruce knew every rigid identity demands a price. Because when you must always win, every contest stops being a lesson and becomes a defense of the ego. Bruce believed the most dangerous moment for a martial artist is when invincibility replaces growth. If Bruce Lee could speak directly to Floyd, he would not offer technical advice. He would ask a single question: who are you when there is nothing left to prove? That question would reach far beyond boxing. Because in the end, Bruce Lee would not be studying Floyd Mayweather the fighter. He would be studying Floyd Mayweather the man under pressure. And that is the true fight. The struggle between control and freedom. Between image and essence. Between victory and evolution. Bruce would not say Floyd was wrong, but he might say his journey was unfinished. Because to Bruce Lee, true mastery is not control over the opponent. It is freedom from a need to control. And when that need disappears, the fight finally ends. If Bruce Lee were alive today, do you think he would admire Floyd Mayweather or challenge him? Is true mastery about perfect control or about stepping into the unknown? Tell me what you think in the comments. Follow Bruce Lee beyond the fight for stories where combat is not the conclusion. It is the doorway. True power begins before the fight.